He's an introvert, interviewing strangers from the internet, knocking down the walls of his comfort zone, one conversation at a time. This is the Gary Cantrell Podcast.
The Gary Cantrell Podcast, March 25th, 2020. How's it going, everybody? Glad to have you back. Today on the podcast, talking to my boy Chris at FatBoyRuns99. Follow him on the gram if you don't already. But before we call him up, I want to give a shout out to my Patreon fam, the Patreon podcast producers, Kaitlyn at Kaitlyn Elise. That is 3 Y's in her name because, 3 times is awesome. Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey, Amanda at Mutts_and_Miles, and Morgan at DDPY Mama. These awesome folks are helping to keep this show afloat, keeping the lights on in the joint. If you can help out, I would greatly appreciate it. Patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. Get the show 5 days early, ad-free, higher quality, private RSS feed. 25% off the hardworkalwayswins.com web store and much, much more. That is patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. And if you're looking for a free way to support the show, head over to Apple Podcast on your iPhone, iPad, Mac, or your PC from the mid-2000s that has an old copy of iTunes on it. You can do it either way. Head over to the podcast tab and type in the Gary Cantrell Podcast, rate and review. Couple of sentences. What does the show do for you? Tell the people what kind of benefit they're going to get from checking out the show. This goes a long way. You've heard me talk about this many times before. I'm not going to drone on about it, but Apple puts a lot of stock into this, and the more reviews we get, the more likely new people are going to find this podcast. And as a result, we can grow the audience and, most importantly, get all these stories like Chris's, who we're going to hear today, out in front of more people. So head over to the podcast app, leave a review, if you will, 5 stars, if you're getting value out of the podcast, of course. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead. Let's get Chris on the line here. I'm really looking forward to hearing all about his story. So let's go ahead and get him on the phone right now. There he is.
There we go.
What's happening, my man? Thanks for your patience.
No problem. I just, I was trying to figure it out because I never used Skype.
I'm starting to think that a lot of people don't use Skype anymore, and I use it because it's familiar. I used it 12, 13 years ago when I started in podcasting, and I guess it's kind of just a habit. I'm starting to do phone calls with people as well, or if people have iPhones, we could do FaceTime audio or stuff. But Skype, I'm just it's one of those things I say because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Skype, I know that. And it's just kind of it's old hat,
Yeah, that because I used to use it. My job used to use it all the time because we used to have to deal with India all the time, and that's the only time we would use it. But it was for work related. But as for personal use, I never used it. I have family overseas, in England and back home in Jamaica. We just use WhatsApp. That's the one we use since that's come out. And that's the only one we use for video chat and stuff. So we just moved away from Skype.
Oh yeah, WhatsApp is really popular. I've used it here and there, but I don't know enough people that are on it to justify it as far as actually using it. But maybe I'll throw that out there to people in the future, and maybe they're like, oh yeah, of course I have that, and if I can connect it to the iPad, we'll make it work.
There you go.
So, I don't even need to tell the format to you. How this stuff goes, man. I've been recording now for a couple of minutes. How this rolls.
I know. Yeah, you just jump right into it, and then you start talking. You just let the people talk, and you just talk off topic, and then you roll it back. So I know how you operate. I've been listening all your podcasts and everything. So I know how you operate. You just bring up, you just let it roll. So
That's
so
right.
to say.
That's right. I guess how did we even get connected in the first place? Because Instagram is such a wonderful place, and there's such a
Mhm.
large community, and I know we have a lot of mutual contacts on Instagram. But how did you and I get connected?
Okay, so it was the podcast rabbit hole. So I think I started. I first I used to listen to this podcast. It was called Logical Weight Loss with Dave Jackson,
Okay.
and he's been doing it for like years. He's been doing this for years. I feel bad because he calls himself he has a weight loss podcast for somebody who's not losing weight, because he'll lose 5 pounds, gain 5 pounds, and he's been doing this, been losing like the same 5 and 10 pounds for years. And then one day he had Dan Rosario from Big Fat Life podcast on.
Okay.
And so then that once I heard him on it, then I followed. Then I listened to Dan's podcast. Then Dan had Gary on. I mean, no, he didn't have. I mean, Daryl. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daryl on. And then once I went to Daryl, then I heard about Nikki, and then I heard about you. I was on it and such. And I think you guys were just ripping back and forth. You guys wasn't even really talking like mostly like weight loss. You guys were just kicking it back and forth. And then I heard come to your podcast, which I thought was weird because Daryl, he does so much things. Like he does like his weight loss one, then he has some random ones where he just talks to people about regular topics.
Yeah.
And then I listened to yours, and yours was like so professional. And then I think I reached out to you like, hey, what's up, man? And you guys were just riffing, and you guys were just talking, like pop culture and everything under the sun and stuff. And I think I reached out to you a little bit after that through Messenger. And
Yeah.
saying, I'm a fan, and I've been listening to your back catalog and such. And then we had talked for a while, and then one day when you I mean, at the time I think you were like, oh, I got a bunch of stuff in the thing, but maybe next year when I get some opening and stuff, I'd like you to come on. So we've been back and forth and such, and that's how we actually connected.
No, I'm glad to hear it. And I appreciate you checking out the show. Yeah, this is and it's something interesting that you brought up there. And I should clarify, because a lot of people ask, and I probably just haven't even addressed it, here on the podcast. But there are times where the conversation. I think the show, it kind of started out as like, let me just bring on an Instagrammer and I talk to them about their weight loss journey, because that's how I meet these people. And then I'm like, it's just so much more bigger than that. Like, to me, like, yeah, it's cool to hear the story. And like, all right, well, how did you put the weight on? How did you take the weight off? I mean,
Right,
I think these are all fascinating things, but at the same time, like, I think there's a much bigger story there. And so I started kind of in the last year or so, like really trying to make a conscious effort to find out more. Because, believe it or not, I mean, it probably goes without saying, but when it comes to the weight loss or the weight gain and all that stuff, like a lot of that is a product of where you come from and your family background and your experiences. And so I just find it a lot, very fascinating to hear about a lot of that stuff. And then also just kind of just talking to people about, just kind of random stuff, because I want people, because here's the other thing too. I feel like a lot of people on Instagram that are in the weight loss community, like all they post about all day long is weight loss, because maybe maybe they're afraid to lose followers. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but they feel like I can only post about weight loss. And so sometimes it's nice to get people on here and just talk to them about other stuff, because I really just want to know what's really behind these people, more than just the weight loss. So that's kind of why things have kind of gone in the direction that they have. But the weight loss is still obviously very present and very there. And I'm glad that it's brought so many people together.
Right. And I mean, yeah, that's great. And as you come back to that, some of the weird stuff is that, like, you did some of your posts. Like, I think you did like a video, and you had Super Mario Brothers 3 poster behind you. And that's what when I saw that, like, I think a couple of times we were like, it wasn't even weight loss related. Like I was just like, oh, I was like, that's a dope poster.
Yeah.
We started going riffing back and forth. And you were like, yeah, that's the best supermarket. And I was like, yeah, I was right, totally there with you. And then we talked about GTA and, we were talking like the online. I was like, do you play online? And you were like, no, you just mess around with it. You don't really mess with the online portion of it. And I was like, yeah, and I brought it up like saying, I do the same. And we started talking about like some video games a little bit and such. So, I mean, we've had little, brushes just because of that, just more than the whole weight loss thing, even though that is, our whole group that we all follow is that. But, we branched out a lot more than that. And a lot of our back and forth through Instagram has been more than just a weight loss circle and weight loss topics and such. So,
definitely.
I mean, and even Daryl, I mean, even with Daryl, that's what my first stories that he actually talked about. I had video in my story. It was me and my son. We were playing Donkey Kong.
Oh,
and
nice.
Then he was, yeah, and I have like the machine in my house, and I placed a video of me and my son playing it. And he was like, "Wow, I haven't seen an original Donkey Kong machine in like how long?" And I was just like, that was like his first thing, and then he kind of, saw some of my pictures and saw like, my transformations and such. But, it was mostly, that's how we started. I started speaking with Daryl actually through Instagram, even after following him.
Yeah. Daryl's definitely a good dude. And I just also want to just say, I'm just clarifying that I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just saying I want to see more of what you people do in a day. That's all I'm saying. So like if you're going on there playing Donkey Kong, I think that's awesome. I think more people should not be afraid to show, whatever they want to show. I'm not saying show everything, show stuff you don't want to show, but what I'm saying is just show, don't be afraid to show more of yourself outside of the fitness realm just because you're worried about some random, jack off that's going to be upset that you didn't post about your meal prep or your workout and you posted about going to the mall or, going for a walk. Like just, do you how you want to do it. That's really, I just want people to do more of what they want to do and less of what they think people think they should do. That's all.
Right. And I agree with that because I mean, as with like Instagram and with the stories and with our realm, I mean, it can get very overwhelming. And
yes,
if you keep looking at the same stuff over and over, it's like, yes, I'm champion for everybody to transform and want to share their story. But you see the same thing over and over. It just gets boring. I mean, that's kind of in a sense, that's kind of why I kind of left Facebook. Because I was just getting the same stuff over and over and over. And it just, at first it was like, oh, it's great. I'm hooked. I'm seeing all these people from high school that I haven't seen for years.
Right.
And it just became the same minutia, repetitive. And it's just like, I just don't want no part. And I just stopped logging into it because I just got tired of it. And I mean, with all these, with the Instagram, I mean, if you keep posting the same thing and like, here's my transformation picture, here's my transformation picture, here's my transformation picture.
Right.
After a while, it's just like, I'm just sensory overload and I just don't need to see it. So, like you said, I'm like, you're human. You weight loss, yes, is a small piece of it, but there's more to every day and more to a person than that. So I'd like to see all the other stuff and see you having fun and going to concerts and doing other things more away from just the whole transformation and the weight loss piece. So it's good to see, and I really would like to see other people branch out so small.
Definitely. And 2 points on that. I'm like nodding along as you're saying this, but two points that I want to add on to this. It's like, don't be afraid that if you post something that's not fitness related, that, oh my God, it's only going to get 10 likes. Like every time I post something, it's like a concert or, something that's not fitness, it does by far the worst out of everything. Like if we're looking from strictly engagement, like, it does less for whatever reason. But meanwhile, I post, a transformation and it'll explode. And I get it. I understand the game that people play. And there are people that will literally post fitness and nothing but fitness because they know that it will just be a like machine and a comment machine And because, there are a lot of people that are just trying to grow their accounts. They want to get them big and big and big, but, don't be afraid to put yourself out there a little bit and just show us, some of the real stuff. And then the other point I was going to make, you mentioned Facebook, and I'm over here laughing because I'm just like, my God, man. I actually took like almost a year off of Facebook, like my personal, and I came back on probably a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, man, this is a lot of the same stuff. Like, it's a little bit different from Instagram in the sense that, people aren't really sharing as much of their stuff anymore. It's just sharing of like pages, like silly memes and political rants and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, dude, like who actually wants to read this stuff? Like, I don't understand it.
Right. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's like, Instagram became like kind of like the new hotness. And then, I don't know, Facebook is like RoboCop's version of Detroit now.
That's a hell of a reference right there. I like that.
Nobody wants to go there. It's just like burnt down buildings and, same old crap and just a bunch of waste. And like you said, all the memes, I have people sharing memes and recycling them. And
dude, if I have to see that lady and the cat screaming at each other one more time, I'm going to jump off my balcony in my apartment.
I know that. The baby notice, and I don't know. It's crazy.
And the funny thing is that they'll laugh at me and say, "Oh, Gary, you're such an old man. You're so, you're so out of touch. You're this crotchety old man. Get off my lawn." I don't care at this point. I'm just like, man, I just want people to be real. Show me some real stuff. And let's just, if you want to share the other stuff too, that's fine. Whatever. It's your page. Do whatever you want, but share some other stuff too. Let's see some real stuff and less of the highlight reels and the woman and cat just screaming at each other with your poorly copied, low resolution bitmap text over top of it. All right. We get it. And speaking of being real, because good God, you could get me on a rant for another hour here, and our hour will be done, and we would have accomplished nothing other than probably making each other laugh, which is fun, and we can continue to do that. But I heard you say something earlier where you were talking about being on WhatsApp and talking to your family back in, you said Jamaica.
Yes. So I have family in Jamaica. I have family in England, Canada, but we originally I'm from Jamaica.
Wow.
Yes. So I moved here in the 80s. And so originally from St. Thomas, Jamaica.
Okay.
And I moved here in the 80s when I was probably about 7 years old.
Where's here?
Just here right now is Boston, Massachusetts.
Is that where you moved in the 80s, or where did you move?
We did. So okay, so in the 80s, so my father, he worked for Bellevue Hospital in Jamaica, and then they had a chance. They had like kind of like an externship that he could kind of do, and he went to England.
Right.
We were a colony at one time, so it was easier for them to get things. So we spent like a short time in England. So there's, just to back up a little bit, there's 8 of us in all. So 5 girls. so Black Brady Bunch. 5 girls, 3 boys. But me and my younger sister, my father came up. He went to England for a little bit. Didn't want to stay there. And then he came to Boston, Mass. We actually came to a suburb of Boston, what's called Waltham. That's actually where I am now. I was just by what I was texting. I was by my parents because my mother called me at work, and she's like, "Chris, come and get some food." And so I had to drive by work and pick up some food from her. She made some curry chicken and rice, so I'm about to kill that after we get off this call.
I hear you.
So we moved to Waltham, Mass, which is a suburb outside of Boston. It was so first he came up, then he brought my mother, me, and my sister up, and we moved up here in the 80s. My brothers and sisters, they stayed with my grandparents for a little bit, and then they came up a few years after once he filed for them and such. But we grew up. So I grew up in a suburb outside of out of Boston.
And you said 7 years old?
Yes.
Okay. So,
yes.
okay. Right there. So, I want to zero in on that. So I feel like it's 7 years old. Like, you're not, obviously you're not a teenager. You're not like fully developed and with your brain and thoughts and everything. But I feel like a 7-year-old kind of has a bit of a grasp on what's going on in life. And so, I mean, tell me, like, what is that experience as that 7-year-old? You're moving to an entirely different country. And by the way, it's America. And, sometimes we can get a little crazy over here in America. And then, oh, by the way, it's Boston, which I've never been to, but I have family that's lived there. And they tell me it's absolutely crazy in Boston. So, as a 7-year-old who's moving to a new country and coming to one of probably the high-paced, fast-paced, crazy parts of the country, tied with only probably like New York or LA or Chicago, Boston's a big market, kind of what is that like for you? And I mean, do you have many memories as a youngster and like how you felt coming to America and coming to Boston?
So, yes, so it was definitely a culture shock. Definitely definitely a fish out of water experience, because where we lived in Waltham, it's got a diverse population. A lot of Spanish, a lot of Hispanic, but where we were on the other side of Waltham, or the suburbs, there wasn't much diversity. So when I went to school, when I started school, being Jamaican, there was maybe 3 Black kids in the school. 2 of them were a twin couple who were adopted by a white family. Then there was me. And then later on, another kid moved in. It was, his name isn't really important, so I won't drop it on there.
No worries.
So they made 4 of us in the whole school of probably, elementary school of about 300 kids. So
right now, when you come in, are you getting kind of like messed with and stuff like that? Are you getting bullied?
It was the 80s. It was the 80s. You have to think of all the movies. What were all the movies back then? You had the bully, and you had the bully kids, and you had the kids who got bullied. And believe me, with the accent and just being thing. I mean, I got bullied. A bit.
Yeah.
So it just, and then it didn't really help the whole thing, and then, so there wasn't much diversity. So I got bullied and I was pressured, and that's where I secluded myself.
Yeah.
Was into more drawing, and that's where the love of video games came in, because there was an arcade down the street, so I would just hang out there and just keep to myself and go to the arcade or come home and draw and play video games and such. So I kind of kept to myself. When I was home, it was cool. But I mean, after a while, I did get, a few friends. A couple of kids warmed up to me, and, I would play. But I mean, when I was at school, I used to kind of get the little, the bullying and the jabbing. I mean, but I thought that was just a way of life. And eventually, as the years came on, then, it kind of changed a bit and such. But that's how it was at first. It was just a big culture shock. The whole, it was whole different, fast paced, and it was just weird. And then the other part of it is the whole, where the school system is totally different from here, from Jamaica. Like Jamaica, they were beating kids. Like your teacher, it was like being like a school. Like, you got out of hand, you could get the belt, and then if you went home and tell your parents, you'd get it again because you must have did something wrong to get the belt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, big difference here. Here we had kids talking back to the teacher and such. I was like, that's unheard of. Like, you get 2 across your eye or your lip, you do try whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big difference. And just a whole different way of life here. But we came young enough, so we were able to pick up really quick and such. And I definitely grew up the whole 80s lifestyle, video games, hanging out with kids, skateboarding, doing skateboard tricks. I met Tony Hawk when I was like 13.
Oh, wow.
Doing BMX tricks and trying to jump over barrels. So I grew up the whole 80s, the whole 80s kid.
How old are you now?
I am 44.
Okay, 44. So in the 80s, you would have been what, like in your, so like
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there?
So I was like 7. So 7, so it was like 83, 80, 84.
Oh, okay. So early 80s. Gotcha. That's what I was trying to figure out because I'm 37. I'll be 38 later this year. I was born in 82. So, okay. So, yeah, you were rolling in right at the beginning.
Yeah, so I was right at the beginning. So it was like that whole thing, So I picked up all those tropes, like doing the wearing the whole, like when I was by the time I was middle school, I was all wearing all like the skateboarding power Peralta stuff and Santa Cruz stuff, and I was
Oh, man.
lifestyle, yeah. So I just grew up total '80s kid, hanging out in the arcade with my skateboard under my arm, and the whole trope.
So by the time you're getting a little bit older, you're probably getting more friends, maybe a little popular with the ladies because you have a certain style, and skaters are kind of in and cool, right? Right? Come on now.
I wouldn't say that so much because even though I tried to follow those trends,
yes,
like kind of okay. So as if we dial back, you were saying the whole thing, like being in a new culture and being where I was, where I came up, and it was a whole different culture and such.
Yeah,
and I didn't fit in. This is where I started. When I look back at it, I started eating my feelings. Kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I was, even though I did those trends and I got some friends and stuff, I was still, coming home and eating my feelings, and then, kind of being shunned and like not knowing to do. And that's where the weight came on. Me and my sister, me and my younger sister, we just, this was something we used to do, and then we had being chubby kids. When I look back at the pictures, now I don't see myself like I was like, well, I wasn't that fat. I was a little bit on the chubby side, but I was bigger than my cohorts and stuff, my friends and stuff. I was always like on the chubbier side. Plus, one thing, I don't have much height. I'm only 5'7", so
you're short.
Yeah, there's other kids were getting taller and such. It's kind of, I just got wider.
I'm 5'10". I'm not much taller, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm a short guy. So, the weight just, it just made me like, even like, when I was in high school and such, like I was like a square, even, just like,
yeah,
I look like people would look at me and be like, oh, do you work out? Because the way I hold my weight, it's like mostly my shoulders and my top, kind of like, like a Johnny Bravo.
Yeah,
that's how I hold my weight. So I look like, but it's like, no, that's just being fat. But I just kind of got that. That's how I hold my weight. So I look that way. But yeah. So I was always on the heavier side. Always on the thicker side of things. So that was my thing, is that, I would be by myself. I would stay home. I would play my Nintendo and stuff, and I would just eat and kind of just keep by myself. I mean, yeah, I did the skateboarding thing, and I did even when I did the skateboarding thing, when I was 13 and stuff. I remember one time, like, just skateboarding all summer, and then like I remember one time somebody was like, "Oh wow, you lost a lot of weight."
Yeah.
But I didn't know I did. I noticed my clothes were a little bit bigger. I didn't know I did. And I remember just doing but as soon as, school started back and I cut back and stuff, I just gained it right back. But I remember them saying that like everybody was like, oh my gosh, even going to the doctors with my parents saying, you lost a lot of weight. He lost a lot of weight, didn't he? And I'm just like, I didn't do anything different. I still think, but I didn't know what happened. But, at that age, you don't really have any concept of what you're doing and how you're doing. You're just doing your day to day. It was just like, we went to the summer, probably hit McDonald's once a day. You didn't have much money and such. And, I was skateboarding all day. So I lost a lot of weight, but I didn't know what I did to do that.
Right. So you're just kind of, you're eating the feelings, but you're kind of still staying somewhat active. So the composition of your body, it's like you were saying, it's all kind of top heavy and it, you carry it well. I think that if anything, that's probably very similar to me in the sense that all the stuff for me is like up top because my legs move a lot, but my mouth also moves a lot too, even now. And so try to walk that balance. So it all kind of just hangs in, in the upper torso area and some of it goes to the gut. So it can be kind of a pain in the butt.
Yes. That's like me. It's like my chest, like my chest and my back. That's where it goes. Like, I don't know.
The back, man. Oh my God. That was a big problem for me. It's gone down a little bit, but it's still, there's still some back left to work on. So, I mean, at what age would you say, that you finally felt comfortable and kind of acclimated with your American, kind of surroundings? Like, how many years did it take you to like fully cause you talk about like, I kind of kept myself into the house and maybe that helped a little bit, but I mean, how many years does it take you to get used to kind of the American lifestyle?
So I think when I really felt good is when I was probably about middle school, 7th grade is when, it came into, I kind of felt like, okay, this is it. And it was around, and that's when I had like a good amount of friends and I would hang out a lot, still doing the arcade things, but I had more friends and, I felt like, I started watching like basketball and I remember talking to some people like that I would never usually talk to, and we would talk about like the Celtics. Oh, did you watch the game? You see what Larry Bird did last night? Blah, blah, blah. I kind of like picked up that, and that's kind of opened up, some avenues for me. Like I started knowing like all the kids. And plus, what happened? Another thing is that the way the middle school was set up is that it was so they took like 3 elementary schools and put them together. So now you had kids from who lived in like we call them the projects, the projects, the lower income housing. So a lot of kids who went to that would go to the same middle school as us. So we all merged. So it was kind of more diverse. And I wasn't the only one then. And everybody was like, oh, the kid with the accent and such. And that time rap started getting big and dancehall music. So they were like, oh, in the words of like all the when they would hear the reggae song. And I'd be like, yeah, I know what they're saying. I know all the words and I knew the groups and stuff. Shabba Ranks and this, he's saying this, he's saying that. Oh, they wouldn't play that they played it on the radio, but he was saying all this bad stuff. Like, so that I started becoming like cooler, like, oh, people. So, so I think around middle school, around those times, I started getting, I was like really comfortable and really coming into my own.
Right. I was going to say, you talk about the music too, like back in the 80s and even early 90s, music was like really a big, big thing. I mean, there's so much good stuff out there that you could get your hands on. What was some of the stuff you were kind of messing around with back then, music wise?
So music wise, I was I loved like a lot of Public Enemy, Boogie Down Productions. I was like the hardcore hip hop, but then also I was into the skater scene, so I was learning about so I knew like Bad Brains, Red Hot Chili Peppers, like when they were before they got radio play, when they were like when they were just starting out. I was getting into groups like that as well because I was into the skater scene and plus I love all the hip hop from that time and such. And then also I had my brothers were which was older, but they were really into dancehall reggae, so I was into that scene too, so I had like a real eclectic. And then like if you like the whole background of hip hop music, it grew out of dancehall reggae. It was some Cool Herc, reggae DJ, and he moved to New York and he was spinning, mixing like kind of like reggae style music with the disco and kind of grew out of that. So I had so I knew all that background and such. So I was like really big into the hip hop, big into that. But then I kind of branched out with, with all the Bad Brains and stuff and all the other kind of music at the time. So for the skater scene and kind of going over to that. So I was like all over the place, but, so I had like all that background and such. which was cool.
Now that just seems like a great time to come up in, especially because you've got about, almost 10 years on me. And I don't say that in, a lot of people say, oh God, don't talk about how old I am, but I mean it like in a good way. Cause you come up in the 80s, you're a little bit older and you kind of a little more aware. Like I technically grew up in the 80s, but I don't remember a ton about it. I would watch shows like I Love the 80s and all these kind of like documentaries on it to kind of refresh my memory. It's kind of cool that you're a little bit older. You can kind of, you have a better memory of the decade, which is one of probably the funnest decades around that people, they had a lot of fun.
It was awesome. Cause I mean, you had the whole video game thing. Cause I remember, I remember just like you hear about like arcade games too, like but I didn't really get like the full thing. Like I knew about Pac-Man, I knew about like Space Invaders and such, but I didn't really get into the arcades until like I moved here and such. But I mean, like even that, like that whole seeing that grow and then people getting home computers and such like that. It's just weird, like because I was just like even my kids the other day I was talking to them and they were just like we were passing by I think we were at Newberry Comics and they saw a Garbage Pail Kid. And I was just like, I got a bunch of those at my house, like the original, ones from '85, and they're like, but I don't get it. What is that? And I'm just like, well, there was these dolls, Cabbage Patch Kid dolls, and I had to go through this whole process of like, there was these Cabbage Patch Kids dolls, and then this company made fun of them, and blah blah blah. And just that. So it's just like they're like, wow. And I'm like, and I started, even telling them stuff. They're like, it's like Friday night. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And they're still watching cartoons, and I'm just like, dude, I remember when like 10 o'clock TV went off. Like,
yeah.
I'm like telling them, and they're like, really? And I was like, yeah. I was like, we grew up. We had one damn TV in the house. It was. First it was a black and white, then we got a 27-inch, and that was like amazing, and it took up the whole room, and they're like, they're just in shock like that. You're really old.
Well, and cable TV was really coming into its own in the 80s. That became like a massive thing where you had suddenly 100 channels at your disposal, and it would grow even to bigger and bigger as the years would go on. You talk about like the Garbage Pail Kids and Cabbage Patch and all that. I remember, I would look at some of the old Mad magazines and the Cracked magazines where they would make fun of stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's great.
I lived on those. I used to buy those. I used to go to the comic book shop all the time and just buy all that. I mean, they used to sell those at the corner store. I'm actually pointing at it right now. It's really weird because I'm in Waltham. I moved from Waltham years ago. I have my own family and stuff, and we lived probably about an hour away. But since I was at my parents, just like right down the street, I used to buy the Crack magazines with make fun of Rambo and all the Commando stuff and all that stuff. Yeah, I used to live.
Well, I was also going to say the other great thing about the 80s was all the movies. That was a very good time for movies. I mean, we see it now in the 2000s where a lot of stuff is either remade or sequels coming, 30, 40 years after the originals. The 80s was a magical time, and there'd be like these massive blockbuster franchises, and then there would be sequels of these franchises that did very well. And man, that was, if I could go back to anything, in the 80s, it would be to go back to the shopping malls where they had the movie theaters and kind of walk around the malls and go to the old movies, 80s movies. That would be amazing.
I was just like telling them, like I was telling my 16-year-old, just like, like the shopping malls, because most of them, they're closing them down.
Yes.
And they're like most of the ones that I used to go to, they've destroyed them. And I mean, they're remaking them, but they're making them into those, and I don't understand why, like, the storefronts, kind of like a plaza. They're making it like a little town, and
it's not the same.
But the thing is, yeah, that works if you live in a place like Florida where you could. But we have like a big outlet by my house. And it's a big outlet in the summer, yeah. But like half of the time in the winter, I'm like, I don't want to walk around here. I'm freezing. I don't want to bounce store to store to store. I'd rather be inside a mall if I have to go out.
Sure.
Or do the whole Amazon thing. Do the whole Amazon thing because I don't know. It's just weird because even that because I was just like I was joking about that with the Amazon. I was like because I was buying my son wanted a Thrasher hoodie.
Yeah.
That's cool now. He has nothing to do with skateboarding or anything, but he wanted a Thrasher hoodie. And I'm like looking at it and I was like, oh, well, I don't want to get this because it's not available Prime. I don't want to order that because I need it in 2 days or I need it in 1 day or whatever.
Of course.
And I was talking to my wife. I'm like, you see how spoiled we are? I was like, I remember in the 80s, I remember there was a thing on the back of the Transformers and you had to cut off like the little heads and you would get like a special Transformer. And I remember sending in for that thing and it took like nearly like 3 months for it to come and that was totally acceptable.
Yeah, oh
but
yeah.
now I'm for something that's going to come in 1 day because of, I don't want it 3 day Prime. I want it 1 day Prime because I can't wait.
That's just
that's
how we are with our health now.
Exactly.
Instant gratification.
Exactly. That's how it is. Everything you need it right now, right this second.
I know.
Yep. And I've been looking for it and I still haven't found it, Gary. I've been wanting I wanted the quick fix and it has not come yet, man. We're in 2020. I should be living like the Jetsons or something.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some of your pictures on Instagram. You look like you're doing pretty damn good, but before we get to kind of the present day, we have to talk about, of course, how we make this change. Cause, you're talking about, I'm taking comfort in the food and I'm becoming the chubby guy, of my friends and all this stuff. What is the, the rock bottom, the highest weight, what is this for you? And then the second part, of course, is what is the aha moment or the day that you decided like, yo, I need to get on this?
Okay. So I had a couple of W's in the past. So I remember the first time I had got up to, I want to say about 200. This was probably around, this would probably be about 95 or so. I got up to about 200 pounds. And I remember I was dating this girl at this time. And she was on the chubbier side. And I didn't really see it, but she felt she was chubby. And she started doing this was the time when like Benadryl and all those things started coming up. All pills that raised up your heart rate. So she did that and lost a lot of weight, and I did. So I was like, well, I'm dating her, so I followed that, and I did the whole thing with her, and I was at 200, and I remember I got down to about 160, 65, 64. And everybody was like, oh, you look great. And I was just, I started taking these pills, and I was probably eating like once a day, because I was working and going to school at the time.
Yep.
And so I got down to about that. But the second everybody said, oh, you're looking good. You're doing this and that and stuff. And then I said, okay, now I could go back to my normal. And I stopped going to the gym and started eating like normal, which was like, fast food all the time and eating out, hanging out, drinking, going out to clubbing and going out drinking. And next thing I know, I'm back to 200 plus 20.
Yeah.
So I was about 25. And this was like when I had lost it probably was a period of 6 months. I had gone down from 200 to about 160 and I went up just as fast. I remember one night one of my friends called me. We were going to go clubbing and I picked up a pair of jeans that I had lost when I had lost weight to 160 and I put them on and I couldn't put them on. And I was just like, oh, they must have just shrunk or something. But yeah, I put on the weight because I was hanging out and drinking every night. So
yeah.
So circle around again. This is probably about 4 years later. Where my mother's driving through the neighborhood and there's this guy who lives down the street. And he says, oh yeah, I used to play his name was Archie Cameron. He said he played baseball. Baseball for Newton North High School, and he was drafted by the Washington Senators. Older guy, so this is even before the Nationals came in. When they were just still in Montreal or whatever.
Yeah, Expos. Yeah.
Yeah, so he said he played for the Senators, which I knew was a defunct team at that time. So he's old
before
school.
My time.
Exactly, way before my time.
Funny sidebar. My grandmother, God rest her soul, my mother's mother, she actually knew people that played on the Senators. The building that she lived in the, I guess this would have been the 60s, 70s. This was a popular building where a lot of the Senators lived because it was a short drive into DC to RFK, right before the end. This was like not Old Town Alexandria. This is like Bellevue area for people that know Northern Virginia or whatever. Anyway, my grandfather worked in the building as I believe a maintenance guy. And so my grandmother, her and them, they knew some of the players from the Senators. And so she actually loved the game of baseball and became friends with many of them. And when they left, she stopped watching baseball forever. And then unfortunately she passed away in 2003. And it was in late 2004, maybe mid to late 2004, they announced that DC was going to get baseball again. And I'm like, oh God, it sucks. She had to pass away like literally a year and a half before the announcement of baseball coming back. Cause I think if she was still around, maybe it would reinvigorate her love for baseball. But yeah.
Yeah, that's so because I remember talking to him, and like my father actually loves baseball because he grew up watching cricket, and it's like kind of got some of the same properties like with the pitcher with stuff.
Yeah.
So my father's like he watches every game, like just because we just sidebar because we were just talking about Alex Cora getting fired from the Red Sox, and we were just going back and forth about that. And I was just like, with the cheating scandal and everything. I don't know what it is with Boston teams and cheating, but I don't know.
No telling.
Anyways, so this guy Archie, he said he played. He said he said he played for them, but then when I did the history, he got drafted into their minor league system. He never saw a day on the field. So, but that has nothing to do with it. But he had was driving around with this car, and he had a billboard on it, and it was him being a bigger guy, and he had lost a lot of weight, and he had his phone number and take this sticker and whatever. So he was like advertising this weight loss plan, and he was doing it on his car. And this is before the whole Instagram and stuff and whatever. So he was an influencer before that whole thing. So my mother stopped him and was like, "Is this real?" He's like, "Yeah, this is my weight loss plan." And he was holding it showed a picture of him holding a newspaper, and like 3 months later he was smaller and was holding another newspaper to prove the date and such. So he was like, "Yeah, this is my plan, and it's only $15 to start. You buy these pills, and I give you the whole meal thing." So I said, "Okay." So my mother signed me and my sister up, because my sister also has problems with weight, and so I signed up for this, and I followed this plan, which was, drink lemon water, and you ate these fiber cookies that you could buy at the store, and then you took this pill, whatever, and then you kind of it was like a meal plan, like eat a salad and eat this and eat greens and whatever, and then take this pill and drink this water and whatever. And you did that every day, and then you exercised. You couldn't lift any weights, but you had to just do high intensity cardio for half an hour every single day.
Right.
So I followed that plan, and I got down to the lowest I've ever been, 145 pounds. But I was white knuckling it, like I was starving myself, and I was just following this, and I just kept up with it, and I felt like crap, but I had lost all this weight, so it was working, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, you look amazing. What are you doing? What are you doing? And what are you doing?" So, this was like 4 years later. I'm going to the clubs. I'm getting noticed. And of course, what happens is once you reach those weights and you go to the clubs, then you go clubbing on the Saturday, and then Saturday night after the club, you go to church, International House of Prayer, or IHOP or whatever you want to call it, which, the burger place, the burger or pancake place. I don't know what they're going with this time. You go to IHOP, you're eating at 3 a.m, and you're drinking and you're doing all this stuff.
They better make up their minds.
Exactly. Exactly. So I was like doing that, you're drinking, you're partying, you're eating, and like with my friends, we would like hit like a pizza joint before and whatever and go clubbing and stuff. And next thing I know, I was up, all the weight I had lost, it was all gone. And then, I was back up and I was probably like 240 something pounds. So at my height, 5'7", that's just, it just doesn't, I don't carry that. That's a lot of weight to carry.
Right.
So, so I just, I'm like, whatever. I'm just like, I don't get it. I just got bad genes. I can't struggle with, I'm eating like some of my friends, and like the friends I hung out with, a lot of them were bigger. A lot of them were bigger and such, but I had some who were, they were thin and they were eating the same thing as me, and they weren't gaining weight like this. So I don't know what the heck I'm doing wrong, but I guess I just have bad genes and I'm just predisposed and I'm just going to be the fat guy. So, I just kind of accepted it and that was it. But, so it wasn't until, much later in life that, I'm like in my 30s and I'm feeling like crap and whatever. And I go to the doctors and such. And of course he gives me the whole, well, you're pre-diabetic and your heart, your blood pressure's up there and stuff. And, you're at that age now. You probably should look into your diet, blah, blah, blah. He gives me the rights and, and he's telling me all this stuff, I'm getting a check. And this, when I get on the scale, I was like 287.
Okay.
I remember. And this is, I'm in my 30s. I'm in my 30s and I'm like 287. And I'm like, but what he told me that, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, and I'm like, I know what to do and such. So I don't really do anything about it, and such. So I come home and I talk to my wife and I told her what the doctor told me. And she's like, well, maybe you should try to do something. You should try to do something about the weight. We got kids and stuff now and we need to be around for them. So, but I still didn't try anything. Couple of months later, I was like, well, I did lose weight following what that guy Archie did. I didn't really go to him, but I tried to do that diet again. Tried the white knuckle. I might have lasted like 2 days, and it was just like, then, you come home and then you eat bad. You have like, 4 slices of pizza, and you're like, screw it, I'll start again Monday. And then you try. Then Monday comes, and then you try something. Oh, I'm just going to eat like chicken breast and broccoli every day and then you might last until like 3 days in, and then screw it, you fall off, and then, well, I'll start back next Monday, and then next Monday never comes, and then you never do anything. So I know I was at 287 at that time. Then I just stopped weighing. I knew I had to be bigger than that, but I just didn't weigh myself, so I didn't stop weighing. So the breaking point, I remember it was like me, my wife, and kids. We were gonna do the whole. This is about 2015. We was gonna do the whole Easter Sunday thing, where we, I was gonna go to church and then go to my parents for dinner and such, and we were gonna just do that whole Easter Sunday thing. And I remember that Saturday she had bought me. It was like a double X button-down shirt, Nautica shirt, and so she bought it. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll wear that because, it matched what the kids had. It was, the whole plaid shirt with the Easter colors and the blue and the pink and whatever.
Right.
So, okay, I'll get one like the kids or whatever. And Easter Sunday comes in the morning and I go to put on the shirt and I already I put my arms in the sleeve. Like I could already feel like this isn't going to fit. What the hell? And I tried to button it up and I look like, when Bill Bixby was transforming into the Hulk and the buttons were popping off, from the old Hulk TV show. That's what I looked like. Like I was about to Hulk, look like I was hulking out. Like, what the, WTF? What's going on here? Like, this is a double X. I always wore a double X. This shirt. So I just took it off. I put it back on the hanger. And I put on another shirt that I knew that fit me, that kind of looked like the ones my kids were wearing. My wife's like, oh, why didn't you put on the shirt? I didn't even tell her. I was just like, I just don't feel like wearing that one. Whatever. Just like, and then worse, I go to my parents and my mother looks at me. She's like, Jesus Christ, Chris, look at you. How much you put on so much weight? And I'm like, yeah, I know, mom. And then she's like, oh, you really need to do something. You used to go to the gym. You remember the time you lost the weight? How you look so good? And I'm like, I know. I don't, I just don't want to hear it. Because when, when you're big, you already know you're fat. You don't need to hear it from other people. And like when people are telling you, oh, you need to do a diet and stuff, you kind of like rebel. Like, I'm not going to do it because you told me to. And you kind of like, you already know. You don't need to hear it from somebody else. Like, that's the whole thing about this whole journey thing. It's not until you say it yourself that I'm going to make is when the change happens. People could tell you until, like my wife could say, oh, I need you to thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'll yes her to death. But I'm not going to do it until I'm ready,
Damn right. People don't understand that. They say, hey, you never know, when you're going to be ready, just go. No, like, man, like you feel it deep in your guts. Like, okay, I'm finally ready. And then you just go.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what happened is I think it was like a couple of days later, I said, okay, the whole thing with the shirt, I kept that to myself. And the whole thing with the shirt is, that stayed in my mind that whole day. Like, I was just like, I can't believe that. Like, I can't wear double X. I'm wearing triple X. Like,
man.
Of course, I used to wear triple X. I used to wear triple X as a thing because I was in the hip hop, so I was always wearing the clothes bigger and stuff. But I never wore it. I had to. I wore it because I wanted to, but I never wore it because I had to. I was always like 2 sizes up for what I used to wear. So like a double X not fitting me is like what the hell? What's going on here? I have to wear like a triple X as my regular clothes now. I'm like. And like my pants were like, they were getting the size 42s and such. So I was like, my gosh, like, Chris, what are you doing? So long story short is I tried to come back to doing the archery thing. Could not do it. Could not make it. Could not do it.
Right.
So I sat down and I told myself, you lost before, but every time I lose, what happens is I lose. I was able to do it. But it's when I stopped and went back to normal quotation is when I would gain back. And then, it wasn't until I put 2 and 2 together, like my normal is what's keeping me big, my normal, I'm going to Burger King or ordering pizza at 1 in the morning or eating what my kids eat. That's what's keeping me big. My normal is not. And then I looked at it and I'm like, because I just know when I ate healthy and when I control my portions, I would lose. But when I would eat my normal, so I was like, okay, my normal is not going to work. One of the things that I knew I did when I lost weight, I would drink water. I did not touch water now. I was pounding sodas. My breakfast at those times when I was gaining weight was 2 Red Bulls, honey bun, and then I'd go to the store and then I'd get like gummy, like Swedish fish, and then Pepsi. Like I would crush Pepsi like left and right. Like during the day, like on the 20 ounces of Pepsi, I think I would crush like probably about 4 or 5 of those a day.
Oh man, back in the day, I was Team Coke, man. We might have had to scrap on that one.
I would do Coke. I do Coke. My wife is big time Team Coke, but I was like Pepsi and thing. But I would do Cokes too. But I did not drink any water. There was no water to be.
Right. Right.
If you saw me drink a water, like you would be like, "What the hell's wrong with it?" Like it was that was it. Like I just did not touch water. So, but when I did lose weight, that's what I was drinking all the time. I would drink the lemon water, I drink the water, and I was eating more greens. So I said, so I came up with the plan. I said, okay, I know Red Bulls are shit for me. I just know they're not good for me because even when I went to the doctor that time, like he was like, Like, I remember when he took my blood pressure, he had to take it twice because he was like, dude, you're like almost an AFib. Your heart is like going a mile a minute. What are you doing? I was like, I had a couple of Red Bulls before I came in here. He's like, yeah, you need to stop drinking those, which I didn't listen to him at the time, but I knew, and we all knew what was up with those things. Those things are no good for you.
Yeah,
so,
straight trash.
Exactly. It's just all caffeine and then whatever. It's just, I don't know.
There's a lot of people angrily shaking their heads right now, by the way.
So I came up with a plan. I said, okay. I said, well, I'm drinking like 5 Cokes a day on average. I said, what if I switch out 2 of those Cokes for water and, and then see how it goes, and of course cut out the honey buns in the morning. But I was just eating this the same as I normally did,
right? And
I did that for a little bit, and of course I lost a few pounds, and I was like, okay. I said, this is work. And then once I did that, the next couple of weeks, I said, okay, let's do 1 soda a day, and the rest I'll drink water all day. Did that. Lost another 10 pounds, and then eventually the scale kind of evened off. So I was like, okay, this is something's happening here,
Oh yeah.
So I said, okay. At night I would eat like a pint of Haagen-Dazs. I said, okay, I'm gonna keep eating my Haagen-Dazs, but instead of eating the whole container, what if I take 3 scoops out of that and do that, and do that, and I did that.
That's the greatest hack, by the way. I have to jump in real quick. That's one of the greatest hacks. Now I still enjoy my ice cream here and there, but what I'll do is I'll either get the pint or, once in a while I get the big Briars, and it's like, okay, I'm going to literally take no more than 3 spoons full in there. Now, some of those bites, I try to make sure that it's not, like a pound on the 1 spoon, obviously, but a decent size, just go in there like a scoop size or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you can go into this thing, but no more than 3 bites. 1, 2, 3, out. And that has helped so much.
Yeah, and it's a huge. And the thing is, what I didn't know, what I was practicing, what I look back at it now, I was like, hey, you're practicing portion control. But I didn't know at the time. I'm just thinking I'm still eating what I want, but I'm just not eating as much of it. Like, I'm just dialing it back. And of course, as I started losing weight by doing these, changing up these little things, of course, it got to a point where I stalled, and the weight wasn't coming off, and then I would look and be like, okay, well, you're not really eating that much vegetables. What if you do you eat your normal stuff, but kind of eat more vegetables with it and such stuff common sense stuff that because we all know that raw foods and fruits and drinking water and stuff, those things are good for you, and all the processed stuff is not good for you. So if you but I couldn't take those things out all the way because I feed for them, because that's how I would always eat. But I knew, like my kids, I have kids, they're going to want to go to McDonald's.
Yes.
And I'm like, I can't avoid that totally, but if I go to McDonald's, I might get okay, I'll get 2 snack wraps and whatever, and and drink my water and eat my things, because I still have to go to, kids are going to want their Happy Meals. They're going to want their meals and such. And I'll go there. Or maybe if I go there and my son wants nuggets and fries, I'll get the 10-piece, and I'll take 3 out of the thing and give him the rest of them. And I'll just eat the 3 and call it a day. So, I mean, I don't deprive myself of anything. If I want something, and I mean, even during the week, me and my wife will have the date night and stuff, and I'll go to Dave and Buster's and I'll order a burger, but I'll eat mindfully the rest of the week. I'll have my salad, I have my thing, and that one night I'm gonna have that burger, and that's all I'm gonna eat. That's off plan. During the day, I'm gonna eat my yogurt, I'm gonna drink my water, I'm gonna eat sensibly, and I'm gonna have that during the night. And yes, if I do go on the scale, when I eat that burger, it's gonna be up for a couple of days. But
Yep.
I just hit my gym the next morning. I just do as normal, and that's the way of life. And I keep myself like within a 10-pound buffer.
Right.
See myself going up, and I'm like, because right now I usually stay about 175, 180 on normal.
Sure.
I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna win the Arnold Classic or anything anytime soon. I'm healthy. I could run my 5Ks. I could do my 10Ks, and I keep myself a buffer. If I stand on the scale 1 week and I see like 188, 189, and I'm moving up, you know, basically I can know when I'm eating off track. Like I know when I'm hitting like too much ice cream or something like that, and I dial it back, and I kind of in that zone. But I don't deprive myself of anything. Nothing. I don't say anything is off limits. Like we just had the holidays. My parents, we had a big thing at Thanksgiving. I ate what I ate for that day, and was back to business the next day, hitting the gym, doing my stuff the next day right after Thanksgiving. I ate normal. I didn't worry about it. Nobody died. Nobody got pregnant. I ate my food, and I just went back to, it's business as usual. When New Year's came, I did, I ate, the whole big thing. I don't know what tradition this is, but everybody always orders Chinese food New Year's Eve, and they sit down and they eat and they drink. And I had a little bit. The scale was up a little bit. I gained about, with all the Chinese food, with all the sodium and stuff, I gained about 5 pounds the next couple of days. But I just hit my gym. Like after that day, hit my gym, eat as normal, and I was back down and back to usual by the next couple of days. So, I mean, I just don't deprive of anything, and that was just my hack, was just living within my means. Now, I didn't lose as quick as I did when I followed all the other weight loss plans, when I was doing the Xenadrin and stuff. I mean, it took me quite a while to gain down, but I could live this. There's no going back to normal, and there's no white knuckling it through. Oh my gosh, I can smell, I smell pizza. I need to have that. I need to have that. I need to have that. Oh, I screwed up. I just will just go off track. I'll start again Monday. Yeah. I don't do that. If I want the pizza, eat my 2 slices, whatever, and then back to business the next meal or whatever. And I don't worry about it.
You're living a realistic life. I think a lot of people, and I'm not taking shots at anybody in particular, but I think a lot of people, they tend to want to live this unrealistic lifestyle where it's like, oh, I'm back on my shit. I'm on my goals. I'm going to do this. and they go to the absolute extreme. And, a month or two in, you see the post, oh, I'm burnt out, oh, I'm falling off track. I've gained, 3-4 pounds. Oh my God, sky is falling. Like, because so many people, and, they'll hear stuff like this and say, oh man, I needed to hear this. This is good stuff. But it's like, a lot of people don't truly follow it because they fall into the traps of, the quick, I need to lose weight quick because 5 other people whose posts I just like on Instagram, well, they did it so quickly. And so I gotta do this so fast, and I got to catch up with them. And it's like, no, you really don't. Like, you got the rest of your life for this, unless you really like being one of those people that just comes on and comes off and comes on and comes off, and you beat yourself up. And I don't think anybody actually likes that. Obviously, I'm saying that kind of, in parody, but it's like, this is reality. Like, you gotta take your time with this stuff. I mean, this is not an overnight. It's not Amazon Prime. It's not, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, whatever. This is your life. Go in the, sometimes people think I say this a little bit too eccentrically, but go in the damn slow lane, slow down,
exactly.
go the speed limit. Stop trying to drive 15 over or 20 over the speed limit, and just drive the damn speed limit and enjoy the life around you. Like, there's nothing, and I mean nothing wrong with that. But a lot of people seem to think there is. So,
right. But I mean, it's like you didn't gain it all at once, so you can't expect to lose it all at once. And I mean, yeah, you have some people who hit it hard. My older sister dated a professional bodybuilder, David Bigo. He used to be on ESPN, and he was doing all that. But I mean, even personally knowing him, he what he does what he looks like on stage is not what he looks like day to day.
Right.
I mean, even professional bodybuilders are not even living that white knuckling it up. When it was coming time to competition time, yes, he had to be, you know, he had to watch what he ate and stay within the line and be totally strict. But I mean, even that, he was getting paid for that, you know? And I mean, that's what he had to do. But even those guys, they don't live like that day to day. What you see on the magazines and on stage, if you see him, like I remember we were like, I was telling, I was like, oh yeah, he's a professional bodybuilder. When you see him like in regular clothes, and yeah, you could tell he worked out, but he did not look anything like he looked when he was on TV and on the stage. Majority of the time, it was only like certain, like when he was going to go to a show, and there was a certain time of the season that he cut down to that, and then he would have to follow that whole thing, like I can't eat, I can't do anything. But majority of the time, he looked like a regular person if you saw him with his clothes on. And then the whole funniest thing is, like, he probably only had probably like an inch on me normally, because when you saw him on the thing, he looked like a monster, you know. But I mean, even those guys are not living like that day to day. And I don't want to be that. I just want to, my whole goal was just to look good in my clothes. And hey, if I'm running around with the kids, I could keep up with them. And I was just not, I just was not this guy who just couldn't do for himself. I just wanted to be able to, I wanted to be able to ride bikes with my kids and do 5Ks from time to time and hit the gym and not have to worry about, I mean, if I wanted to go down and lose my weight and get down to 160 or 145 again, I know what I have to do. I don't think I can live that life. I've done it when I was 145. I did it. I felt awful. I was cold all the time. I just felt weak. I did not feel good. What I'm at now, I feel my day to day when I go to the doctors, my health is in check. I feel great. If I want to get, if you look at my thing, I'm like running on the treadmill daily, and it doesn't bother me, and I can just do it with no problem. And that's all I want. That's all I want out of this. I just want to be able to look healthy, be healthy, and just do my day to day. I don't want to be, I don't want to be Mr. Olympia or anything like that. That's not my goal. Some people, that's their goal, and power to them. But everybody's journey is their own, and they go about it different ways. And this is how I went about it. This is portion control, and I don't want to deprive myself of anything because I've tried it and I can't do it.
No, I feel you, man. I feel you. Tell me about how you got into the running. I know it's in your Instagram name, Fat Boy Runs, but how do you? Who the hell likes running? Okay, I say that jokingly. There are a lot of people who like it.
Exactly, and I hate it.
You hate it. It's in your name. How do you hate it?
I know. And then the whole thing, everybody's like, "Oh, you need to change your Instagram name with the Fat Boy thing." And I'm like, no, that's like a old. So the whole Fat Boy part of it is in the West Indian culture, like when they use that like a term of endearment, which I hated because my uncles would come. And I remember like my uncles would come and I'd be like, oh, yeah, I hate when Uncle Rollin comes because all he's gonna do is come here, fat boy, come here, fat boy, come here, fat boy. And I hated it because I grew up in the American society where fat is not a good thing. But back in the islands, like people would think it was good because you can afford to eat. You're fatter. You're doing well.
Yeah.
They had that perspective on it. But so like every time they would come here, fat boy, come here, fat boy. They would call me over, and I'd be like, I hate it. I'd be like almost in tears, like stop it. So that's kind of where. And then the whole running thing, I don't know, because I remember just like growing up, like when I played football in high school and we had to run sprints, like that was the worst day ever. But I don't know. As I grew, like I said, when I started this whole journey, I used to walk at lunch. I started walking. I'd walk like around a half an hour every day and just walk at lunch. And then, like I said, as with the food, as I changed up, the walking had to change up because I started walking at lunch a half an hour every day. Then that stopped, the weight started kind of plateaued. So then I started walking an hour. I'd walk at lunch, and then I'd walk another half an hour when I got home. I'd walk the dog or something like that. And, the weight started coming off and then plateaued. And then a little bit after I had lost probably my first 40 pounds or so, I joined Planet Fitness. So then, I started walking on the treadmill, and then, was like, okay, well, started walk running, and then, eventually, the walk running became 5 minutes of walking, 5 minutes of running, 5 minutes of walking, 5 minutes of running. Then it was like 10 minutes of running, 5 minutes of walking. And then so it got to the point where I could just run a whole half an hour on the treadmill. And then after that, I just kept challenging myself up and. And you got to think, this has been 5 years. So I've been going to the same Planet Fitness. I know everybody in there. They know me, and they're coming, and they're like, hey, somebody's on your treadmill making fun and stuff, because they know I'm the running guy. And I do weights and stuff, but like people will see me on the treadmill, and I usually run for like 45 minutes, which is about, I get about 5 miles. I'm not fast, I got short legs. so like 5 miles, but I'll run for 45 minutes, and that's my thing. And so when I started losing the weight, when I made the Instagram to kind of follow my thing, just because of my uncle, fat boy come here, fat boy thing, I was like, well, fat boy's running now, so what do you got to say about that?
That's right.
So that, so that's where my whole Instagram handle came from. But I started doing 5Ks and 10Ks, and then I did a couple of Spartan races here and there, just to challenge myself. But yeah, that's where that thing comes from.
My God, we've already done an hour plus, which it shocks me every time. I know that sounds, some people are probably like, oh, it's a bit now. He's like, oh yeah, every time he asks about the hour, but
very easy to talk to, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, clearly we're going to be doing another one of these. So, tell the people for now where they can get a hold of you, and we'll definitely we're going to get on the line for another podcast, because we could easily do 2 or 3 hours without blinking.
Definitely. So the best place to reach me is Instagram. It's fat_boys_run99 at Instagram.com. So that's the best, because I don't use the Facebook, because the whole, like we got to before, that just is boring. And
right.
I'm tired of giving people happy birthday shout outs to people I didn't even talk to in high school, all of a sudden my friends now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. Get a hold of Chris on the Instagram. I'll drop that in the show notes, of course, so people can reach out to you. And my God, yes, we must do this again, either later this year or next year. There's always so many podcasts.
We didn't even get into the old school wrestling when Bob Backlund and stuff was champion back in the day. I could have went there with you.
Oh my God. Now you're trying to get people to tune out of the podcast. No, we'll save a little skin on the bone for a part 2 down the line here for sure. I had a pleasure, man. The pleasure's all mine. I'm glad that we were able to get connected, and I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast this weekend, hanging out with me.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Pleasure was on mine. I had a great time, man. Definitely.
All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
See ya. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Chris on the show here. What a great guy. I could have literally talked for probably another hour or 2 or 3, but there's only so much time in the day. And you see, this way we save a little bit of it and we can do more down the line. So make sure you go check him out on Instagram. Of course, check out hardworkalwayswins.com and patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. Get these podcasts 5 days early. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday, your next episode drops on Friday. If you sign up today, your next episode drops on Friday. So I'm out of here. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you so much for taking some time to check out the show. And I'll talk to you guys again real soon.